Hello, welcome back to the Finish the Fight podcast. Today's episode 3. A few things I wanted to touch on today. We'll be talking about last night's Thursday night football game between Patriots and the Rams. It wasn't close of a game at all, but we'll get into that today, as well as today's Friday. So if any of y'all are from the DFW, I'm not sure if you heard Jerry Jones on 105.3 The Fan this morning. He made a few interesting comments that I want to get into as well. So I want to touch on those two things today and keep it kind of a short episode. So thank you very much for your time today, and let's get right into it. All right, and let's get into last night's game. Last night was Thursday Night Football. The New England Patriots at the LA Rams. I thought this game was going to be a lot closer than it ended up being. You never count out Bill Belichick and his defense. But unfortunately, the Rams just did what they did and do what they do best, which is run the ball and set up that play action, which worked so well for them last night. Final score was 24-3. The Rams move into first place, sitting at 9-4 on top of the NFC West, and the Patriots now drop to 6-7. Struggling without Brady, that's for sure, but it's still the Patriots. They'll be back for sure. Last night, Cam didn't have a great game. He was finished nine passes on 16 attempts for 119 yards and a pick. And that pick was a pretty bad one. It was after a Rams turnover by number 41, Miles Bryant. They were looking to get into the red zone, and Cam threw a screen pass that was just it was out of his reach, and Kenny Young for the Rams took it back to the house. At this point, it was 17-0, and the Rams would get a field goal in to finish off the half, but that was going to be the rest of the points they put up for the game. As I said, it finished 24-3. The leading rusher was definitely Cam Akers for the Rams. He finished with 29 carries for 171 yards. That's the most by a rookie this season. And getting the running game going definitely opened up the Rams playbook, which they're so good at in that play action pass and finding Cooper Kupp in the slot on so many of those plays. Just because the run game was working so well, whenever you hand the ball to Akers, he was averaging 5 yards a carry last night. He was pretty much unstoppable if you watched the game. He was breaking huge runs to the left, to the right, up the middle. Every time I was looking at him in the game, he was making some plays. And between him and Henderson, they just had a really good night, and Bill Belichick just could not get his offense going in Cam Newton. Who knows where Cam will be next year? The longer the season goes on, it sadly looks like he won't be back in New England next year. I'm not sure if anybody's going to pick him up. I do think he could be useful in some other teams, but it just doesn't look like his arm is there as, from his MVP caliber season. He's definitely still a dynamic runner and hard to bring down in the open field just because he is such a big guy. But if you force Cam to sit back in the pocket and beat you that way, he's just not going to do it. Not at this day and age. I don't see it in him anymore. That pick six that he threw was a pretty bad pick. It was just a low screen pass, I guess, got away from him or something. So it's going to be interesting to see where he'll be going into next year's offseason. But yeah, that was last night's game. It was a pretty good defensive game from the Rams. Their defense is looking real strong with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, of course, the best defensive tackle in the league. Might even be the best player in the league. That man's a monster. All right, so I wanted to touch on some of the comments that Jerry Jones made this morning on 105.3 The Fan. I was actually pretty surprised with quite a few of these comments. Just hearing where Jerry's mind is every week for a Cowboy fan is pretty frustrating. It doesn't feel like he really listens to any of the outside media. Well, I'm sure he does listen to it, but he doesn't take any of it into consideration at all. Obviously, I guess you can't do as a general manager, but I don't know, for this Cowboys organization, especially for Jerry Jones as the owner and the GM, I just feel like he's trying to do too much. He's always tried to do too much, and that's why we haven't had any success since Jimmy Johnson was our head coach here in Dallas. But today they asked Jerry about being flexed out of our Sunday night football game next week against the 49ers. And this really took me by surprise. Instead of Jerry being furious like I thought he'd be, he kind of looked at it as that they're moving all games around this year. Instead of a wake-up call. For me, I feel like it should be a wake-up call to the team, considering we're America's team still. Being flexed out of a Sunday night football game is completely unheard of. In my 20 years on this planet, I've never heard the Cowboys being flexed out of a Sunday night football game, no matter how we're playing. just because it always brings in ratings. So to see it actually happen this week or going into next week, because we do play Sunday against the Bengals, it just kind of blows my mind for him not to even have any concern about it whatsoever. He kind of blew it off his back and is like, whatever, it happens to everybody. But I don't feel like it shouldn't be happening to our organization just with everything that we have, being the most valuable sports franchise on the planet. You would think that we could keep a Sunday night football game, but we can't do that, and Jerry doesn't seem too upset about it. Going on to the next thing, when they asked Jerry about maybe at this point in the season going ahead and packing it up and letting some of these younger guys get some more playing time just to see what we want to do and who we want to keep moving forward in this in going into next year. And Jerry responded by saying that injuries have kind of decimated this year, and obviously they have. I feel like on the offensive side of the ball, defensively, yeah, we do got some injuries in the secondary. I know they just put Chidobe Awuzie back on COVID list. We're missing Trayvon Diggs. I'm not sure Jordan Lewis is hurt. He played a really good game last week against Baltimore, but he still didn't get more snaps than I believe Reggie Robinson, which is kind of mind-blowing to me just considering I know Jordan Lewis is definitely the better corner there. So I'm not really sure what this Cowboys defense or coaching staff is doing in Mike Nolan. It still seems like they have a lot of confidence in him. And this is a hard subject just because Mike Nolan has had some historically bad defenses, but I was really confident the way they had set everything up, maybe changing schemes. They said they were going to adjust our scheme to our players. That definitely hasn't happened this year. I don't see any players benefiting from the scheme change, not even Tank, rushing from a stand-up position sometimes. I don't see that benefiting him either. I feel like he gets off the ball quickest in his three-point stance, and that's where he makes a lot of his plays from. So my confidence is definitely depleted quite a bit in Mike Nolan. Mike McCarthy's situation, I'm still happy. We had 10 years with Garrett, and, still didn't get nothing. We don't have any Super Bowl wins for it. We don't even have an appearance in the conference game. So I'm not upset about Jason Garrett firing. I still like Mike McCarthy. I'm glad that we got a coach who's willing to go for it. And I know a lot of these fourth down situations are questionable, but in the past, we'd be sitting at 4th and 2 and punting the ball without a doubt. No question in our mind that the Cowboys were going to get the ball right back. So I do like what he's doing in that atmosphere, playing a little bit ballsy, I guess you could say, in a lot of these situations. And then, it's a learning curve, especially for Mike McCarthy when you take a year out of the league and you come back with all these different things. I know Cowboy fans are already ready to throw him to the curb, but I'm definitely not there yet. I do like the flashes I've seen from him. And with Dak, we did have the number one offense in the league. We were averaging about 488 yards a game with Dak. And I definitely, those first few losses were all on our defense. So I'm not sure. I definitely think maybe we need to look around for a different defensive coordinator going into the offseason, or maybe just some better position coaches, because I couldn't tell you who our cornerback or who our safety coach is right now, but I can tell you last year with Chris Richard, there was a huge difference in that Cowboys secondary. So maybe if we could, if Chris Richard would ever come back, or we could find somebody of that caliber to take over our secondary, or just get some better position coaches in there, because I don't really see on the defensive side of the ball, I don't see any drive from anybody anymore besides maybe one or two handful of players. It feels like they're all sluggish out there, and they pretty much know that this season's a wrap, and they're just trying to, collect their paycheck and get on to next week. Getting back on topic, like I was saying, they asked Jerry if he'd consider playing maybe some of these younger guys. Jerry's response was that they're already all pretty much everybody that we have playing is going to play. I understand that in our secondary, because like I said, our secondary is injured and we do have some new guys out there, but I don't see it for people like our middle linebackers. I see them still playing Van Der Esch, Jalen, Sean Lee every play. And that's all fine and good if that's our plan for the future. I know we did just sign Jalen to a huge deal, but I really don't feel like these are our guys anymore. They just lost that edge that they had going back into last season. I'm not sure if they'll be with us next year, but especially looking in Jalen Smith, I don't see in him what I did anymore, and I feel like he's hurting us in more ways than he's helping us, and I don't know if he could get back on track. He could maybe next year potentially and make me eat my words, but right now I just don't see it, and I feel like we're struggling so bad at that interior spot in our defense between our two tackles and Neville Gallimore and Antoine Woods. Gallimore's a rookie, drafted this last year out of OU, I believe. And Antoine Woods was I believe, an undrafted free agent. I love Antoine. But there's just no consistency at that spot. Going into the second or third quarter, they're usually gassed. And by that point, they're just getting blown out the middle of the field, and our linebackers aren't getting off blocks or getting hit in the second level and not being able to stop anybody's rush attack, which is why we're still dead last in rushing yards allowed per game and rushing attempts. We're not playing good defense. And for me, I feel like everything should be fundamental at that point. If it's as simple as stopping the run, then let's get our tackles in the gaps, clog up the gaps, and have our middle linebackers come down and plug them. But I don't see that happening anymore, so I'm not really 100% sure what the Cowboys' future is with our linebackers and our defensive tackles going forward. I'd love to keep Gallimore. Like I said, he is still a rookie. He's been playing extremely well for a rookie. So I'd love to see the future he has here in Dallas, but I definitely feel like those are key positions we need to draft. And going into the season, I know we signed Gerald McCoy. I was really excited to see him, but sadly, he got hurt before the season even started and we let him go. And none of these other players that we signed, like Dontari Poe, ended up doing a damn for us. He ended up just hurting us more in the long run, which really sucks because, I know the Cowboys are known for going for a lot of these older players, bigger names that are kind of towards the end of their career, because I completely forgot we had Everson Griffin on that as a defensive end too, but they just didn't show up, especially Poe. I was extremely saddened watching him. He just was the worst rated tackle in football whenever he was playing with us. He was not good whatsoever. And it took for him getting cut to say he was going to get into football shape, which is really concerning. Not on him, but from a Cowboys perspective, why we even have this guy, let alone starting for us when he's not in football shape. Who knows? So there's been a lot of questionable things with the Dallas Cowboys this year, and it's pretty frustrating as a fan, as I'm sure a lot of you other fans know. It's just frustrating, I really felt like we had the talent coming into this year to be huge contenders with adding CeeDee Lamb to an already stacked offense. And then defensively, last year we weren't bad. We were top 10 defensively, but we just completely cleaned house with a lot of the position coaches, defensive coordinator. We didn't keep anybody, and we tried to change schemes, and ultimately I think that's our downfall, is a lot of our players were not ready to change schemes and are still confused right now on what exactly they're supposed to be doing in said schemes. So I don't know if that's on Mike Nolan, if that's on the players. At some point, somebody's going to have to take the blame or share the blame, because we were sitting here with 3 wins going into Week 15. So that's definitely not okay, especially with as much talent as we had on this roster coming into the year. I definitely felt like we could have run away with this division, especially the way every other team has played. But looking at it, we played the worst out of every other team in this division. So it's just kind of crazy to even think about. The next thing Jerry said that I wanted to comment on is our effort. After the game on Tuesday, different few sources came out. Mike McCarthy, Jalen Smith, as well as Ezekiel Elliott all commented on the team's effort. And just kind of putting it into question. It feels like, I said, from my standpoint, and obviously from, it looks like, leader standpoint in the locker room, that not everybody on this Cowboys team is giving it their all when they're on the field. It's definitely obvious when you watch any game field. You got players out there kind of jogging, giving up on coverages, simple stuff here and there that add up to big things at the end of the game. And Jerry throw these comments to the side here this morning. He says effort is not a question, but you definitely have to start questioning effort when your own head coach, your own star running back, who you call the best player on this team, and your favorite middle linebacker and Jalen Smith all question the team's effort. Then that's something I feel like you have to do as a general manager. You kind of look silly when you got 3 different people saying this, and then you go on air and you say, oh, well, no, I'm Jerry Jones, and effort is never a question in my locker room, just because you're trying to protect your image. In my opinion, your image has been shot for a while, and everybody can see it. It's an effort issue. And at this point in the season, we're out. There's no reason for us to keep competing. So like I said, let's go ahead and get these younger guys in here, people who want to play, who deserve that chance in the NFL, if not for us and for other teams, to watch our film and be able to sign some of these players coming into the offseason who probably won't be on our roster next year, who were undrafted free agents who are only playing the season because of COVID and people need these extra slots. Give them a chance to play and show what they can do with that star on the helmet, because a lot of players that we got right now aren't representing that star on their helmet, and that sucks to see, especially when you know what this team can be, what our philosophy has been, all these years. We got 5 Super Bowl rings. Those aren't accidents. Other teams don't accidentally have 5 Super Bowl wins. It's something that you got to build. And over these last 20 years, we've lost that. I feel like Jerry has lost. If not that passion, then his ego has gotten too big, and it always ends up stepping on the toes of the coach, this or that. Like I said, I'm not part of the organization, so I'm not 100% sure what it is going on. I'm just looking from my view inside. Jerry's just definitely disappointing me. He's already got all this money. If money's not the problem, then I don't see what it is that we can't put this team together. It feels like we have all the pieces. We just can't take that step over the hump. And I'm not sure what it is. I thought in going down and firing Jason Garrett is going to be what we needed to finally get over that hump. But we still haven't done it. So I'm not sure where we go from here as a team. All right. And the longer I listened to Jerry this morning, he really just contradicted himself most of the time. Next, he went on talking about how the money's not the reason why we don't win. Obviously, Jerry has more money than half of us will ever see in a lifetime. But then he goes on to say that everything that's done through this organization, whether it's drafting a player, signing a player, the coaches he hires, the coaches that are brought in to teach certain things, trainers, everything has to go through Jerry. And he said it himself, and he doesn't understand what's going wrong. But if everything has to go through Jerry and that's what hasn't been going right, then I think maybe he should start there. But I don't know if his ego will ever even accept that idea, that it could be him, considering, when he bought the team, he had all this early success, that now for him to accept that would kind of be like taking it all back and giving all that glory to Jimmy, which is, I know, what Jerry hated the most about Jimmy Johnson, was that he got all the credit. And, the more we look back at it, I think Jimmy does deserve the credit. He needs to be into the Cowboys Ring of Honor for sure, because without him, then we don't even have those other rings, in my opinion. So this morning, Jerry was just very frustrating to listen to as a Cowboy fan. It's his normal on and on about how we need to be better, this and that, but, no actual insight on how we're going to get better or what we actually need to do. So I just wanted to talk about that this morning. After listening to Jerry Jones, it kind of got me a little heated, pretty passionate about what he said, just because, it's the same crap. He said the same crap year after year. And, we got a matchup on Sunday against the Bengals. I wouldn't be surprised if we lost to the Bengals, honestly. With us playing the way we've been playing, I can't see us winning another game this season, honestly. So that was my thoughts on this. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Finish the Fight podcast. I am going to be moving this to a YouTube channel, just to make it more convenient when I send out the leak. I know it hasn't been working for quite a few people. I do appreciate everybody who has taken the time to listen to my podcast so far. And I'd love some more feedback on it. I am going to be having some other Cowboy fans on here, as well as my roommates again. If you'd like to be on here or just talk about anything, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at abenavides2000, and I will talk to y'all soon.